Bole Baba Ki Jai. Today we're going to begin the reading of the Shiva Purana. It's the translation by Ramesh Menon. I'll just begin reading. First, it's going to tell about the birth of the author of the Purana, Veda Vyasa. Once a celibate Parashara, immortal rishi on his pilgrimage, arrived on the banks of the Yamuna River. It was a crisp winter morning. The river sparkled as if a million jewels were strewn across its water. In his hut, the fisherman sat at his morning meal of last night's fish and rice when the austere figure loomed in his door. "Take me across the river, I am in a hurry," said Parashara ungraciously. It was not the first time the sage had passed this way, and the fisherman recognized him. He called to his daughter, "Haidakhandi, take our Muni across the river." She appeared at the corner of the hut, 16 and bright as a bit of winter sun. Her breast buds strained like young lotuses against her green blouse. Eyes like saucers on her lean, dark face glazed frankly at the Muni. Without a word, the young girl led the illustrious one to the wooden boat tethered to a stake on the riverbank. As the Muni followed her, the smell of the girl's body invaded him, the raw smell of fish with which she was born. That sage who had felt no twinge of desire for fawning Asparas in Devaloka was overcome by the earthly whiff of the fisher girl. Instead of being repulsed, Parashara lost his heart to her. When she helped him into the boat, he held her hand longer than he needed. She freed herself quickly and cast off. However, he would not so easily be denied. As they moved out, Parashara again reached for her hand on the oar at which she rowed. She smiled at him, her great eyes twinkling. She stopped rowing, and they drifted in the midstream, but she did not withdraw her hand. His hand quivered on hers. In a husky voice, she said, "You are a high Brahmana, descended from Brahma, and I am a fisherwoman girl. Between us, this isn't proper, Holy One." Then she trembled. Suppose he cursed her. At that moment, her father held them faintly from the bank. He stood washing his hands outside the hut and wanted to know why they had stopped. Parashara released the girl's hands. She rowed again while the rishi kept a watch on the fisherman. Soon the sage took the girl's hand once more. She said, "Brahmana, aren't you repelled by my smell? Muni, don't you know the Vedas say one should not have sexual intercourse during the day? Besides, my father can see us." When the Muni leaned forward awkwardly to kiss her, she was reminded sharply of his great age, and both excited and dismayed by it. He waved a slender arm over his head in an occult mantra. Instantly, they were shrouded in mist, and the fisherman could not see them anymore. Then it began to snow. It was dark on the boat on the river. "Is that night enough?" The little fisherman's daughter cried out in wonder, but being a virgin and afraid, she said, "You will enjoy me and go your way, yogin, but I will become pregnant. Whatever will I tell my father?" He cried hoarsely, "Give me your love, and you will have fame forever among the devas and the rishis. They will call you Satyavati in heaven." Look, another wizardly mudra from him, and she saw her body glow with a new beauty. Her limbs were luminous. her features finer, and now she smelt of wild jasmine, lotus, and other unearthly fragrances. In a moment, they spread from her for a whole yojana. Her original fishy, musky smell had not vanished completely. It became a sublimely erotic scent, making his ardor even fiercer. Still she hesitated. She restrained from his wandering hand, so he cried, "Say whatever you want, and it shall be yours. Quickly, you are driving me mad." After a moment's reflection, she said, "If no one ever knows this happened, if my virginity is restored, if the son born of our love is a great Muni and holy man like you, and if I always smell as sweetly as I do now, then take me, Muni." Parashara laughed like rolling thunder. "This is God's will. All your conditions will be met, and your son shall be the greatest poet the world has ever known." He took her in her arms in the boat on the Yamuna, while his snowstorm held an opaque curtain around them. Impatient for him, now that her fears were allayed, she rowed to an island in the stream and moored there. They lay together, the unlikeliest of lovers, heating the pale sand dry. After he drank deeply of her youth and she of his age, Parashara rose away from her to bathe in the Yamuna. With a last kiss on top of her head, he walked upon the water and out of her life. In that mystic dimension, she went into labor as soon as she conceived. Her delivery was miraculous, and she felt no pain. Immediately as he was born, her boy, bright as the sun, handsome as Kamadeva, grew into a full-grown rishi with the Kamandalu in his hand, a smooth staff in the other, and his tawny hair lit in a halo. The newborn and exceptional hermit said to his mother, "I must go my way, but if you ever want to see me, think of me, and I will appear before you." And he walked away. Since he was born on the Dvipa in the Yamuna, Satyavata's son was called Dvaipayana. Later he was to divide the holy Vedas and to compose the sacred Purana from ancient revelations. He was to become renowned as Veda Vyasa. It is from Vyasa that we first hear about the auspicious one, about Lord Shiva. Obeisance to Shiva with Uma beside him, his Gana and his sons, obeisance to the Lord of Prakriti and Purusha, the cause of creation, nature, and destruction. I seek refuge in Shiva, whose power is unequaled, whose glory spreads everywhere, who is unborn. Some rishis from the 6 noble families began a yagya in the Naimisa forest in Prayag, at the confluence of the Ganga and the Yamuna, from where a subtle path leads to Brahmaloka. The Sutta, Roma, Harshana, peerless recounter of the sacred Puranas, whose sacred lore can make one's hair stand on end, hears about the sacrifice going on. He is one of Veda Vyasa's 5 disciples, to whom his guru imparted the Purana he composed from the antique revelations. Sutta is a most erudite Puranika, a master of syllogisms who can answer the metaphysical queries of Brihaspati himself. This Sutta, who is a seer and a poet, arrives in the Naimisa. Sanyaka's rishis are delighted. They receive him with honor. They worship him. They set him into an asana and say, "Omniscient Sutta, ocean of the eldest lore, Tell us the holy Shiva Purana. Sutta begins in his majestic voice. I bow to the splendid Rishi Vyasa, who blessed me with the Purana. Veda Vyasa said to me, when a long time had elapsed after the beginning, when many kalpas had come and gone, and this one civilization was established, a dispute arose among the rishis of the 6 clans. One said, this is the greatest God, and another disagreed. They set off to see Brahma, the creator. They went to Mount Meru, to Deva Purvata, where Devas and Asuras, cities, and Charanas, Yakshas, and Gandharvas roam, to Sumera, 4-armed swastika mountain at the crux of the world. They came to Brahma Vana. There, 10 yojanas wide and 100 long, luminous with lakes and hills, they saw a city brilliant as the midday sun, its portals and ramparts licking the sky. Golden and silver mansions lined its 1,000 streets, each one as big as a palace, everyone embedded with unearthly jewels. At the heart of the secret city, the Lord Brahma lived in the great edifice. In his ineffable court, the rishi saw the creator like molten gold wearing white silk. He was utterly gentle, his eyes large as lotus petals, his body draped with celestial garlands. His luster was everywhere. His fragrance was like a river flowing in spring. Saraswati sat by his side, the cowries of fate in her hand. The rishis glowed to see the 4-faced Lord. They joined their palms above their heads. They hymned him, obeisance to thee, ancient Brahma, source of creation, life and death. Obeisance, O Brahma, great Atman. Obeisance to you who has the universe for his body. In an oceanic voice, Brahma said, welcome, rishis of splendor. Tell me why you have all come here together. The leader of the sages said, we are taken with darkness. We don't know who the greatest God is. You are the creator of the universe, the cause of all causes. Nothing is hidden from you. Tell us, Lord, who is the most ancient one of all? Who is the greatest Purusha? Who is the purest, most perfect being? Brahma shut all of his eyes and was lost briefly in himself. Opening them again, Brahma said softly, Lord Shiva. Plucking a wheel of light from the air, like a sliver of sun, he cast it down into the world where the hub of the wheel breaks. Offer your worship to Lord Shiva. The blinding wheel whirled down in the mountains. It broke against an age-smooth and auspicious crag in the forest, this Naimisa Vana. Ever since, this has been holy ground, sanctified for revelation. Here the first Purana was given to men, said my guru, Veda Vyasa. Thus Sutta begins, his body swaying in the rhythms of the plumbless tale. Incomparable Sutta, tell us how Shiva is worshipped, said Sunaka, chief among the sages of the forest, thirsty for the occult Purana. Shiva is worshipped both as Murti and as Lingam. Sunaka says, all the other gods are worshipped just as Murtis. Why, it is only Shiva worshipped as both image and the Lingam. Sutta says, Shiva alone is Nishkala, nameless, and formless, as well as Sakala, embodied. In his formlessness, he is worshipped as the Shiva Lingam. Long ago, in the first Kalpa, Shiva revealed his Nishkala form as a linga, and since then, he is worshipped, so as the eternal Brahman. Listen. Once blew Vishnu, 1,000-headed, 1,000-armed, with his Sankha, Chakra, and Gada, lay asleep with Mahalakshmi on the great ocean, the primordial sea. The universe lay dissolved. As he slept, a lotus with an endless golden stalk and a blue corolla thrust itself out of his navel. Brahma, grandsire of the worlds, was born within this umbilical lotus from Vishnu's golden womb. Brahma roamed that lotus for 100 years, but could not climb out of it. He began to climb down the infinite stalk, but he did not reach the place from where the flower grew. Then a disembodied voice said to him, "Tapasya is your way." Brahma sat in meditation inside the lotus for 12 of his interminable years. One day he found himself at his father Mahavishnu's side. Vishnu lay asleep, but he shone like the sun. Striking the sleeping blue god with his hand, Brahma said, "Who are you? You lie there haughtily even when you see me. Don't you know who I am?" Vishnu was furious. However, controlling himself, he said calmly, "Welcome, my son. Tell me where you come from and why you are all agitated. Sit here and tell me," Vishnu said. "I have come as swiftly as time. I am the creator. How dare you call me my son, as a guru does his disciple? I am the Pitama, yours as well. I create, protect, and destroy the universe." Vishnu replied languidly, "Yes, my son, you were born from me. Brahma, I am your father. The lotus in which you were born sprouted from my navel. But no matter, my son, Maya deludes you." At which Brahma struck him again, and with a terrific fight erupted. They first fought like common men, with fists and rough punches. Then Vishnu mounted his eagle and Brahma his white swan, and they fought with the Asuras' cosmic weapons. The devas gathered in the sky to watch. Vishnu hurled the different weapons at Brahma. These missiles burned into the sky and blazing like 10,000 suns locked on high. As the devas watched in heaven, flames from the Astras began to consume the three realms. Suddenly, between the two maddened gods, a column sprang up through the ground, a column from nowhere, without a top nor a base, a column of light and fire into which the apocalyptic Asuras were absorbed like two sparks. It was a linga, with thousands of garlands of flames like galaxies spewing in every direction, an incomprehensible linga. Awestruck, Vishnu and Brahma fell quiet. Brahma breathed, "What is it?" Mahavishnu whispered, "It is beyond me. You find its head while I seek its root." Turning into a golden boar, he dived down through the ground of that first battlefield to seek the root of the mysterious linga of fire. Brahma became a swan and flew up at the speed of time, quicker than light, to seek the top of the manifestation. For longer than we can conceive, the boar dived and the swan flashed up, but above or below there was no end to the blazing lingam. Exhausted and frightened, Vishnu came back to the battlefield. Brahma flew on up. When Shiva saw them distraught in their arrogance, he laughed and dislodged the Ketaki flower off his head, which fell down that infinite column. Down wafted that flower, turning into falling countless divine years like a blessing, with neither fragrance nor brightness dimmed. They fell over Brahma, the flashing feather ascender, in petal rain. Perplexed, Brahma the swan said, "Lord of flowers, from whose head do you fall down from this column? Why do you fall, good flowers?" The flowers said, "Friend, we have been falling forever, and we do not remember where we began. How will you find the column's pinnacle?" Tired and annoyed as he was, Brahma had a thought. He bowed to the flower and said humbly, "Friends, a small favor for me. Tell Vishnu I saw the top of the lingam and that you bear witness to it. in dire straits, falsehood is recommended by even the oldest lore. They found Mahavishnu in distress, and Brahma smiled. Like an eunuch confessing his inability, Vishnu said ruefully, I could not find the root of the linga. Brahma smiled smugly, I found the column's head. These flowers are my witness. Vishnu bowed to Brahma. He worshipped him with all the 16 homages. When he lay at the dust to worship Brahma's feet, a tremendous om resounded at that place, a thunderclap that would shatter the universe. Shiva stepped out of the linga, taller than the phallus of fire, a wild, matted hair yogin, bright as a brilliant sun. He stood before the terrified gods, with bow and trident, wearing a tiger skin, a shiny serpent, the sacred thread around his body. He seemed to swallow the heavens with his million mouths, the om still dying in his blue throat like the battery of thunder that heralds the final deluge in which the stars drown. From that vision's brow, from his third eye, sprang the dreadful Bhairava. Bhairava knelt at Shiva's feet. Command me, Almighty Lord. Shiva said, Here is Brahma, the first god of creation. Worship him with your sword. With a roar, Bhairava seized the tuft on Brahma's fifth head, the one that lied to Vishnu, and raised his curved blade. Brahma howled, he swore, he trembled and fell whimpering at Bhairava's feet. Bhairava's arm was drawn back to take off the lying head. Then Vishnu knelt at Shiva's feet. Lord, you gave him 5 heads. Pardon him in your infinite mercy. That is his first offense. Shiva blessed Vishnu. Vishnu, you are truthful, though you are also wanted to be the Lord of all things. From now you will have as much worship as I do. But this liar, Brahma, shall not be worshipped anymore or have a temple of his own in the world. Bhairava released Brahma, and the chastened god prostrated himself before Shiva. Lord, I am humbled, now bless me. Shiva said musingly, the universe is ruined without the fear of a king. Rule the universe from now, Brahma, and be the Lord of sacrifices. That day, Brahma and Vishnu first worshipped Shiva. Ever after the day in the month of Margarisa is when Mahadeva is worshipped as both lingam and murti. The bhakti who fasts day and night on holy Shivaratri, who worships the Lord and deceives no one, he shall have the blessings of a year of ordinary worship. Shiva made the blazing lingam without root or tip, diminutive and quiescent. He installed it upon a yoni pedestal, which is Uma, said Veda Vyasa to the Sutta. And then Sutta shared this with the rishis in the Naimisa Vaina. Never again did Shiva wear this particular flower on his head because she also lied. Bole Baba Ki Jai.